and I don't know if it was one craft or half a dozen, but they would appear at the two lights, swoop up, and disappear.
Hey everybody, and welcome to Monsters Lounge. I'm Jeni.
And I'm Tressa.
Oh, there we go. All right.
Yes.
That looks more normal. Okay. I was wondering why we're missing something, but yeah, okay, fine. I'll be quiet about it. I'm so excited about tonight, Tressa. I'm so excited about our guest. It's going to be awesome. Do you have anything that you need to discuss first?
You mean like
what's new and strange on TikTok this week? Ghosts and shadows that make your heart beat, videos that twist and bend your mind, secrets in the frame that you gotta find.
Yes, that was slightly what I was referring to. I just wanted to see the intro again.
Of course. You're welcome.
All right.
I saw this TikTok, and it was really more of a reaction video than the actual one. But there's this family, I don't remember where they're, maybe the UK, I don't remember. But they've been doing these ghost videos in their own house for years. I haven't seen them in a while. I thought they got debunked. I don't know. But she's like talking to her dad, and her dad's like, I don't feel good. And they're like sitting across from each other at the table. And he's like, ugh. And it looks a lot like when we have seen mediums like channel somebody. Mm-hmm. Like he's just like spacing out. And then he like lifts his head up and he's just like staring at his daughter. And he's staring and he's just staring.
I don't know who froze there. Was it me? Was it you?
I don't know. We'll find out later. And then his face completely changes as you watch him, completely changes into a completely different man. I don't know if it's video editing, probably. Yeah, but maybe. It was super creepy and really well done. Kudos to you guys, even if you have been debunked.
I mean, some of them are really good and are very convincing, and then there's some that I just want to believe. So, yeah.
I mean, anyway. I hope for the sake of that family, it was not real, because that guy was clearly possessed. If it was,
so... yeah, absolutely terrifying. I talked to a woman this week, not on TikTok, but in real life. Yeah. And she told me a story about how she went to go visit relatives in the Philippines. And and with her mom. Her mom came over 30 years ago, came over to the US, and so she was born here. And when she went back to visit, there was this moment in the house where she just started to feel super overwhelmed and like sick. And she was like, Mom, like, I really don't feel good. And all the female relatives came over and brought with them some sort of leaf and like did a little ceremony, and she felt immediately better. Right.
Was she consuming this leaf or just receiving this leaf as a offering?
Yeah, I froze there first. No, as like a ritual or something. So anyway, the woman was talking to the relatives, and they were, oh yeah, it's just because you look so similar to your mom at that age that all of your past relatives wanted to come visit. And it was just like matter of fact, like, oh no, that's what was happening.
That's how it happens. Those are things that.
Yeah. I do like that. Let's talk about our guests coming up.
Okay.
Shall we? So, giving a brief intro and foundation for this, George Sewell and Dan Baldwin have been on the show before. I believe it was like last March, maybe. And they spent some time talking to us. They're both authors and investigators. They've written a few books, but they have been using pendulum dowsing as investigative tools. They've both worked on many, many cases and have done this for years and years and years. And it led them to discover a UFO abductee named Lindsay Higgins, and she had a past life history with alien entities, and then connected them with a presence that they're going to talk about a little bit more tonight. But it's a fascinating story. And so if you haven't heard that episode, please go back and listen. But please help me welcome George and Dan.
Yay. George. Oh, yay. Welcome.
Welcome.
Good to be here again. Thank you, guys.
So glad to
Excellent.
have you.
We had such a fun time talking to you guys last time, and we're just going to go ahead and jump in here. But our story centers around your newest book, Sky People and Our Ancestors, which is very, very good, by the way.
Thank you.
Can you kind of explain to us what led you here? I know last time we were talking about, I believe it was Jakpo?
Jopko, yeah.
Jakpo. Okay. Can you kind of give a brief history on what that is?
That would be George.
Even though I don't know where I am, I can't see me, but Jakpo.
That may be a good thing.
Yeah, that's true. There's a very ancient settlement in northeast Louisiana called Poverty Point. It was very active 3,000-4,000 years ago. It's one of the oldest, if you will, settlements in the eastern part of the nation. And I visited Poverty Point many times and had the pendulum with me. And so, well, heck, I'm here. This is an ancient place. Is anyone here? And I got an immediate robust swing, and essentially carried on a pendulum conversation with the shaman who was at the village 4,000 years ago. And I kind of gave him the name that he said I could use and called him Jakpo, just to recognize him from other entities or other individuals. And he's been available to us ever since. That's been a number of years.
Yeah, and one of the things that kicked this specific book off was a conversation between me and George over at his house one night, and we were talking about all this ancient alien stuff, and we were kicking it around. Said, well, if the ancient aliens in UFOs visited the Middle East, surely they came over to America, to our continent, because we had high civilizations back at that time. And so we said, well, let's look into that area, because George is over there in the home of the mound building cultures, and I'm out here in the cliff dwelling Pueblo cultures. So we could both research the same thing from two entirely different cultures and then kind of compare notes.
Fascinating idea, first of all. Can you give just a real brief rundown on like what the mound building peoples and the cliff dwelling peoples are?
Well, the mound builders, it was a very widespread civilization across much of the southern states. They were largely villagers, and they were called mound builders because they had a tendency to build very large mounds for purposes that are not necessarily fully understood. At Poverty Point, the mound there is a huge structure that was originally shaped like a bird, and it was thought to be some homage to, if you will, the higher realms. You walk up to the top of the mound and you're closer to the gods, if you will. You're closer to the heavens. So there was a lot of vertical structures in this particular culture. And they were prolific. And they built some very, very well designed, well constructed villagers. They were builders. Again, they were not nomadic. I mean, once they settled, they got into agriculture. They got into hunting, fishing. I mean, they were very adept at successful living.
Fantastic. And then
the cliff dwellers, the cliff dwellers, there are different societies out here, but the Pueblos and the cliff dwellers. We primarily focused on the cliff dwellers, and they were Native Americans who were, because of attacks from attacks from enemies, were forced to move into the canyons and up the walls of the canyon, and then they would build beautiful, complex housing and granaries and storage areas and worship areas into literally the side of the cliffs. And many of those are still in excellent shape. They're just a beautiful, wonderful craftsmanship and a beautiful use of the land, and specifically the lighting in the land. Because if you're an enemy walking along, you can look right at some of these sites and really not see them because they blend in so well. But they're beautifully constructed. So these are highly sophisticated groups of people. And then George and I started asking, were you visited by sky people? And we both got, yes, we were.
Oh, that is amazing, especially with both like relatively stationary peoples, like ancient peoples, right?
Yeah, in fact, right. Dan and I are both, I would say, amateur historians, so we do a lot of reading, if you will, about world history, ancient history in particular. And after a while, and reading about so many ancient civilizations and current anthropologists or archaeologists going to these indigenous people and inquiring about their ancestors, there was almost always, when the indigenous people were talking about their ancestors, they spoke about their ancestors and the sky people.
That's very exciting to me.
Very consistent worldwide, and that really got my attention, got Dan's attention. So, okay, who are these sky people? Sometimes they were called star people, that these ancient folks were encountering. And that kind of led us to, take out the pendulum and check it out.
Yeah, George and I are very big on doing primary research, historical research, and looking in books and magazines and watching videos and histories and things like that. We're very big on doing our own personal research, and using pendulum dowsing is an excellent tool for doing pendulum research. I mean, historical research. And sometimes we come up with information that contradicts traditional history, but we don't edit ourselves. We lay it right out there. This is what we found. You make up your own mind. And I think as we learn more and more and more, the value of pendulum dowsing, using your subconscious, will be recognized as a better and better tool for historical research.
Absolutely.
I really like that because, sometimes history is written by, the people that won. Sometimes we don't get to hear the side of the story that needs to be told. So that's really, it's really powerful is what it is.
Were there times that you guys found that you guys were getting answers that differed from the historical record, but later on were proven to actually be accurate?
What comes to mind is we've come up with dates that are far too early according to traditional history for a lot of especially the things at Poverty Point. And this is what we got. So we lay it right out there. A good example of how the trend I think is going our way is when I went to LSU, there are 2 Native American mounds from the mound building cultures at LSU, and they were dated at 1,000 years ago. That's been fact for 100 years. Since LSU's been there, those mounds were built 1,000 years ago.
Yeah, by the way, LSU was in Baton Rouge, Louisiana.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so recently they dug into the mounds and did some further research, and now they've dated them back 11,000 years.
That's a
jump.
Yeah, we've got it in the book. We've got the sources was, you can look it up in the book. But my point is, some of the stuff that is weird, inaccurate, or whatever that George and I come up with, I think history is trending our way. I'm not saying we're getting everything right. Nobody's 100% right, but I think what we're coming up with, science and history is going to validate slowly but surely.
I could totally see that, because so many times something is written and then everyone just accepts it as the truth without checking or doing any further research. Well, I heard this one thing. I read this one headline, so that must be the truth. And now you guys are going to dig a little bit deeper.
Well, but excellent point. Excellent point. We're discovering, for 100 years, the Clovis culture was the first culture in the Americas, correct? Everybody knows that. The problem with that is when they got down to the Clovis culture, they stopped digging.
Oh,
because everybody knows that's the beginning. So a few scientists have started digging, and now we're bumping back to 20,000, 25,000, 35,000, 40,000 years. Cultures way before Clovis, and it's because somebody decided to not accept the conventional wisdom and to, like George and I do, dig a little deeper.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Oh, that is so great. Now, you guys came up with a team to sort of help you out with this, right?
Yeah, George, you manage the team.
Yeah, and particularly when we were researching for the Sky People and previous book, Paranormal Pendulum 3, the Lindsay Higgins story, we had a number of local researchers that we tapped into to utilize their particular skill sets and talents just to broaden as much information as we could about the particular subject. So we've worked closely with other pendulum dowsers. We've worked closely with, if you will, folks who have very developed psychic abilities, intuitives. So it's quite a roster of talent that we've worked with in the production of these particular books. So it covers a lot of material from a lot of angles.
Oh, that is fascinating. I love the collaborative effort. Okay, so when you say Sky People, because I'm kind of a dummy, right? Like I immediately, there's so many descriptions of so many different sorts of alien life or Sky People, star people, anything like that. But what my brain goes to are obviously the small, well, maybe not obviously, small gray or green men. So is that what you're describing?
Well, out here, I have not come across a single instance of a gray or either the little black ones, the Colbs, I think they call them.
Oh, I don't.
The only contact I've had out here, the only contacts I've heard about out here are with what we call the Nordics. That's
really?
Yeah, and that floored me. I was expecting the grays.
Yeah, but I'm also, my head goes straight to Roswell, so I would never have expected to even Nordics.
Yeah, so we're communicating with spirits of Native Americans, and I would ask, was this person tall, short? Did he have hair? Was he bald? Did he have big eyes, black, blue eyes? You get a physical description. Across the board, we got Nordics, or at least I did. Not a single gray yet.
Oh,
well, that floored me.
Yeah, that's wild. I would not expect that at all. I don't know. Huh.
I mean, there may, the grays may have been there, and maybe they just stayed on the ship.
Right.
But the Native Americans only that we've talked to, again, we can only report the people that we've talked to.
Yeah.
So, but those people have only seen Nordics.
Yeah, and in the folks I talked to in descriptions of the sky people, basically they were very human. There was nothing about them that was disturbing to the villagers. The villagers were not by any means afraid of them or fearful. Now, they were intimidated by them in the sense that the sky people were so damn smart. They knew so much, and that was a little intimidating for the villagers. But other than that, what I got was there was a lot of intermingling. There were cases of intermarriage, if you will. I think the sky people were setting up a lineage from which they would draw their spiritual leaders or their witch doctors or whatever you want to call them.
Let me read that. That's a beautiful point, George. God bless you. Let me read you something.
You know what? Let's go to a break, and we'll have you read that right when we get back in 1 minute.
Oh, hey, Tressa. Jeni? Oh, I'm just reading my book by international TV sensation, Dave Schrader. I'm reading the book, too. I don't remember the name of it or who wrote it, but yeah. There, I like your shirt. You? I got it on monstersloungepodcast.com. You've got a great shirt, too. Oh, that's so weird. I got it at monstersloungepodcast.com, too. They have really great stuff. A whole variety. I know, right? They have everything. Shirts. Tote bags. Clutches. A phone case, I think. It's the best.
Classic.
Yeah.
I just love to see Jenny's little thumbnail giggling away in the corner. All right. Please read us. I want to read to us. I want to hear all about it.
Just briefly, but it touches base on what we were just discussing. In my own opinion, George and I are touching on different types of entities at different levels of experience.
Yeah.
I think we're dealing with people, and I think with people, Nordic people, gray people, but also highly evolved spiritual beings.
Yeah.
On multiple levels. So apparently we had a good psychic, Colleen Laborde, who's an experiential psychic. And she did a reading with George, and she allowed us to use part of that reading as a prologue to our book. And it brings up something really, really interesting about why some of these entities are interested in earthlings. We were taught that she was talking about apparently a team that has been assigned to George and me, said, and they're mentioning not only the fact that the two of you have connected in many, many different lives. Apparently, George and I have been hanging around for a long time.
Yeah, that checks out.
Yeah.
But get this. But they love the prankster part of your personality and the jokes that during the humorous part, because they don't have that.
Oh.
There are some in this group that you work with that are very interested in how everything interfaces in the human incarnation with personality, humor, joking, grief, and all of those motions and things that we deal with, because they don't. That puts an interesting spin on why they're here, or why some of them are here.
Mm-hmm.
You kind of blew my mind just now, because I know that on the other side, I'll call it, they only have just basically pure joy. They come here to experience a whole range of emotions that they don't get over there. And I never even considered humor. That breaks my heart. Yeah, they wouldn't have that there.
George and I are somewhat known for our unique sensibilities. Let's put it that way.
That's why we love you.
Mm-hmm.
But I thought that was fascinating.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah,
it blew my mind a little bit.
Yeah,
I don't think that applies across the board, but I think it applies to a specific group. They're coming here because we've got something they don't have, or maybe something they've lost.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I remember you were talking about that towards the end of the first episode that we did with you. But I don't think that humor was mentioned. And yeah, I'm kind of blown away.
Yeah.
Also, yeah, a little sad for him because humor's the best.
It is.
Well, we're students, so maybe we're teachers too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Oh, so what kind of experiences did you guys have at these places? I mean, you had the reoccurrence of the Nordic sky people. Were they visiting in ships? Did they come down and just kind of make camp and just stay here, or how did that go?
I kind of asked that to one of the individuals I was conversing with. He was the chief of a village in Mississippi about 2,000 years ago. And yes, the sky people would come down and there would be a craft, but that was just a conveyance method. Once they were down, they pretty much seemed to stay in the village and just intermingle with the locals, teaching them about various things, learning from themselves about, like we just mentioned, the emotional ability of the natives. This was always a fascinating point. So there was just a lot of give and take, and it, from what I can gather from the few conversations I've had, it was very amicable.
It's something I asked.
A win-win situation for both.
Yeah, I asked at one point, and then I got an answer. So I asked it many times. But I asked, was there trade going on between the sky people, and the Native Americans? I mean, did they come down here and give us toasters, and we give them flint axes? And they said yes, but it took a while. But basically, they were trading ideas.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah. Although I do like the idea of like, here's your toaster, and we're like, here's some jokes.
Yeah.
Knock knock.
I can use. Wait, I'm gonna steal that. Yeah. You just gave me a short story.
Perfect.
Where do I plug this in? And what is a plug? Also,
yeah.
I don't want to derail the conversation, but you mentioned before the show that you witnessed a swarm of UFOs. Can you tell us about that real quick?
There's one of the sites is called Slickhorn Road. It's up in Utah, southern Utah, and it's one of my favorite camping sites. And it's like 10 miles from the nearest highway down a dirt road. I mean, a serious dirt road, and you're looking around the Navajo reservation. I mean, so the nearest town is 20 or 30 miles away over the ridgeline. So there's no, I mean, it's dark. It's very dark. There's nothing to interfere. And I've had a lot of luck seeing a lot of strange things at that particular point. I used something, you're familiar with Dr. Stephen Greer?
I was just talking about him with Jeni yesterday.
Okay, well, I employed his technique every time I go there, and I've always had something interesting show up. Well, this year I was out there, did my meditation, went through the whole thing, and about 9:30 at night, I saw a white light appear, turned into two lights, and swooped up and disappeared. Now, I live under Sky Harbor Airport, 7th busiest airport in the world, and I'm a mile from Falcon Field, a busy personal airport. I have Apache helicopters testing all over my neighborhood. I know what stuff looks like in the sky.
Yeah.
And I said, that's unusual. So I looked, I kept watching, and it happened again. A bright light turns into two lights, swoops up and disappeared. And there was no red light, no green light, no strobe light, total violation of FAA regulations. And then it started boom, 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 all over the sky. I watched it for half an hour, And I don't know if it was one craft or half a dozen, but they would appear at the 2 lights, swoop up, and disappear. Then a couple of them would do this number. They'd show up and fly like this in a horizontal line. And sometimes they'd hook up one behind the other, but they'd do this. And I saw one, there was one cloud in the sky, way up high in the sky, a black cloud, and looked up and there was a red light up there. And I said, the military sent somebody to check these guys out. But no, the light went straight down. I mean, straight. And then it went this way. Did not bank, did not turn. I mean, it was going one way and then it was going the other way.
Like just a 90-degree shift.
Yeah, instantaneous. I mean, I can't even do it with my finger. I've got to stop and do this. It was just one way, then the other way. Total, I mean, multiple bright lights in the sky, violating FAA regulations, performing non-ballistic motion over and over and over and over and over again. And I watched that for half an hour.
Half an hour.
Half an hour.
That's
oh my God.
wild.
I just said, thanks, guys.
Yeah.
That's
now. Go ahead, please.
No, I said I've had several, nothing that dramatic, but I've had dramatic sightings at that location, and there is a Native American site right there. It's a 3-room cliff dwelling right there, and a granary over here.
Were you in communication via pendulum during any of these sightings
Not
that you've
during
had?
that one, because it was I mean, I'd done the meditation that afternoon and nothing was happening, so I wasn't out there, show up, guys. I was just out walking around the campsite. It went bing. I said, "Oh, they're here." That's the only I've heard about swarms before, and I thought, I believe people, but that's the first one I ever saw. It was amazing.
I can't imagine, just that must have been such an experience.
It was,
jealous. It's fine.
Yeah. But you said now you weren't in the middle of a session with that specific sighting. Have you had sightings where you are in the middle of engaging with?
Not UFO sightings.
Okay.
I've had spirit communication, but not UFO sightings.
Okay.
Super neat.
Yeah.
Amazing. So you guys kind of went all over the place. How did you pick which sites you wanted to go check out?
Well, I picked them because I love camping up there. It's a beautiful place. And
Okay. That'll work.
It's pretty.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's pretty. In the area where I go, there are hundreds of canyons, and there are cliff dwellings and granaries and worship sites and pictographs and petroglyphs virtually in every canyon. So it was a good place to, I could be in one spot and cover a lot of ground without having to drive all the way across the state or all the way to another state. I could camp in one spot, hit 2 or 3 different sites, in a weekend. Easy.
Yeah. And there are instances where, say, a good friend lives on the property that was very active several thousand years ago. We've had that occur. In fact, Dan was here in Louisiana, and we went to one particular person's property, and Dan kind of got some sensations from it.
Tell us what happened.
Well, we were at this location. It's out in Louisiana, on a high on a hill, overlooking the lake. At the time the Native Americans lived there, it was a river. And we were talking to a friend, and she was a very good psychic. She said, "Well, your family's here." What? She pointed to the hill. Her house dips down and into a creek bed, and then back up to a hill. I said, "Well, your whole family's over there." And I said, "Well, that's really odd because," and I said, "George, when we walked up, I said there are people over there." I just had, I said, "George, we're being watched. There are people over there. They're invisible, but there are people over there." I know it. I just feel it. you know, you've had that feeling, you know, you're being
Yeah.
watched.
Sure.
But the psychic came out. She said, "That's your family over there. They come out to see you. You were a Caddo Indian."
You're like, I'm working. Can you not right now?
I'm working. So I said, "Well, I've got to go down there." So she and I walked down the hill, and then she said, "I got to leave you here." And I walked to the bottom of the hill, and at one point, I was just wrapped in the arms of family. It was like welcome home. It was,
Wow.
it was very emotional. It was like a
Yeah.
welcome home, kid. We're glad to have you back, and it hit me like that.
Oh God, I can imagine.
Yeah, it's not like a political speech where you get worked up and you get worked up and you
Mhm.
get worked. I mean, this was like, well, I'm going to walk down. Oh, like that. So, well, I think, you know, when you're doing psychic research and you get an emotional response that strong, you know it's real.
Mhm.
You know in your heart it's real.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Everyone's watching over you and making sure you get all the stuff you need. Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
True story. I swear to God.
That's amazing. That's amazing. So were there any other like really interesting commonalities that you guys were finding amongst both the cliff dwellers and the mound builders?
Yeah, they did not think of the sky people as gods. They were just people who had a craft who came down from the sky
Right.
and visited. They weren't gods.
I really
that's
like that because I feel like
hugely interesting.
I feel like we're always taught like, oh, those crazy people from the past, they didn't know what stuff was. And they're just guys hanging out with us. It's fine.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
Well,
And
and
I was
also-
I was particularly struck by that.
yeah.
That it
Yeah.
was so consistent regardless of location or even period and time.
Oh, that's incredible too. Because if you look at a lot of other cultures and the references to sky people, they ended up being worshipped as gods or at least
Mhm.
higher level.
No, but that's only Americans. But yeah, well,
Interesting.
and an interesting thing, George is studying. The people he's studying are 2,000 years before the people I'm studying. Like he's
Okay.
4,000 years ago. I'm 1,000 years ago. The cliff dwellings, I'm
Yeah.
1,000 years ago.
Mhm.
So, but we're getting the same information thousands of years apart in entirely different parts of the country, entirely different cultures, but we're getting the same information.
Wow.
Yeah.
You know what?
Oh,
Let's
that's
talk
so
about
incredible.
portals when we get back from this break.
For those of you naysayers, I want you to know how much I appreciate how many of you grabbed a hold of my small package after last week's show. It is out and available. You can get both of my books, The Other Side, A Guide to the Paranormal and Ghost Hunting, and my brand new book, Theater of the Mind, Tales from the Darkness. Both books are out. One, of course, kind of a how-to ghost hunt book, and the other story book of strange supernatural occurrences all around the world. You can get your hand on my small package by just ordering it right off of my website. You can go right to paranormal60.com, scroll down on the front page there, or go to the shop and scroll down and you'll see our book bundle. And I was so humbled by the fact of how many men put their hands on my small package at the end of last week's show and bought it. It was great. It made me feel loved and wanted. I'm not going to lie.
Okay. Jen, did I interrupt you? Did you want to ask something before I want to dive into portals?
I was just thinking about like the commonalities throughout history and that they were just people or teachers. You know, you mentioned that there was a trade, right? Is there anything that was kind of a little bit more astounding that maybe the ancient peoples got that you also sort of universally heard?
Nothing astounding, George.
No.
Nothing I
No.
would qualify as astounding. No.
Surprising?
Well, it was surprising, yeah, that they weren't considered gods. It was like, oh, they're back.
Mm-hmm.
Call a shaman, they're back.
So it was a long-term relationship. Apparently, there was nothing specific about the moment.
They're just guys that showed up occasionally or not. They stayed, but I really like that a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did ask one of them. I was talking to a shaman. I said, apparently they shared, the Sky people went to the religious ceremonies with the Native Americans. And I said, did your religion change any after you had met the Sky people? And he said, no, my I'm boiling down. Fundamental beliefs haven't changed, but they have broadened.
Oh, I like that a lot.
Interesting.
Yeah, because they're learning new things and they're experiencing new things. So, of course, your whole belief system would break wide open.
Yeah.
Apparently it didn't crush them at all. It was just, again, it gets back to, it was not common, but the Sky people showed up and it was, well, the Sky people are back. Call a shaman, call a chief. We're going to chit chat.
Yeah.
I love that.
It wasn't,
Yeah.
No, not at all. Not at
bring
all.
out the corn and the virgins and
That's a well-rounded barbecue.
George is the portal guy if you want to get into it.
Well, but right before that, George, I do have a question more specifically geared towards you. Did anybody ever give you an answer as to why the mounds?
We never asked the question.
Fair.
According to archaeologists, the mound builders built the mounds to be closer to the gods.
Mm-hmm.
And on the top of the mounds is where supposedly they had various ceremonies. On one trip to Poverty Point, I did have one of our good friends who was a psychic come along. And on the top of the mound at Poverty Point, she was just kind of blown away. Just, oh my gosh. And what impressed her was this was the place of marriage.
Oh.
If the mound was the point between the heavens and the earth, and when the villagers made their unions, we would call them marriages, that was performed on the top of the mound.
So it's just a complicated venue for weddings. Got it.
All right, I think that answers my question. Let's tell Tressa about portals. Otherwise, she'll kill me if we don't have enough time to talk about portals.
Yeah. There is definitely a portal sort of in my greater neighborhood, as it turns out. There's a city park about a mile from my house called Mike Wood Park, and it butts up against the southern part of Barksdale Air Force Base on the runway. And that area, I would go for a walk to the park in the morning, and the rising sun directly in front of me in the east would, that looks so pretty. So let me just take a photograph of the rising sun. And lo and behold, I look at the photograph and afterwards, and there's this glistening sphere hovering above the ground. And I'm saying, what? Okay, well, that's probably a lens flare. It's got to be a lens flare. So every time I went on the morning walk, I would make it a point to stop at that same point, frame the camera in the same way, and take a picture and see if anything happens. And about 7 out of 10 photographs, there would be an orb.
Oh.
It would be in a different position. It might be a different color and a different size, but there it was. I don't see it.
No.
I don't see it. The camera does.
Right.
And so I started just keeping track of that. And after about 300 of them, I put them together in a PowerPoint just to so I could have it as a sequence. And well, they still continue.
Really?
So this is 600-700 things.
A photo?
Yeah, let me say this about you could say you could look at George's orbs and say, hey, that's a lens flare. But he's got photographs of orbs in trees, behind trees, coming up over buildings, partially obscured. He's got orbs in front of orbs. I mean, there's no way they could be camera flares.
And orb inside a lens flare. So, that was the kind
He's
of
hiding.
Okay. Aw. Although, can you put them all together and make me a flip book of orbs?
Yes,
I feel like
please.
that would be fantastic.
I'm going to
There's
do
so many.
something with them. I haven't quite decided what or how. Just,
Coffee table book.
Right?
Definitely.
Yes.
You got me thinking about spheres. Do you guys have opinions on the Booga sphere?
No, I haven't. I've seen. I haven't looked into it at all.
Okay.
No, me neither.
Thought I'd throw it out there, hoping. All right.
Yeah.
We're very, very narrow in what we do.
I know, but spheres. It's your fault for bringing up spheres.
All right. So with the portals, I know that there's there is a photo in the book that I saw, and this was really cool to me because we've had prior guests mention the significance of this. Is the spiral symbol?
Yes, that's a pictograph.
Mm-hmm.
You see that it's universal. You see it all over the world, and it's a spiral design.
Right.
And I have two theories about it. One, I think if you meditate, you've ever gone into the tunnel. The meditators out there know what I'm talking about. It could be the tunnel, but it could also be, which is also a form of a portal. It could be symbolizing a portal and the travel through the portal. So the spiral's getting smaller and smaller as you traveling through that portal. But you see that everywhere.
Yeah, you really do.
Yeah, something George and I have asked people on the other side about is you drew what you saw.
Yeah.
There was these crazy designs you see. You'll see perfect examples of turtles and deer and horses and men and whatever. And then you see these crazy designs. And we asked, you drew what you saw, and we got consistently yes. So we're seeing, those crazy designs are something that they actually saw. Maybe in a vision or something like that, but they weren't doodles. They had meaning.
Oh, that's fascinating.
Yeah, it is, because you don't ever think about how plain it is, that they're just drawing what they see.
Yeah.
Have you guys thought about going going to other areas and trying to communicate with any other of the indigenous peoples? Like the people who were more nomadic, or going more south and getting into sort of Mayan Aztec territory?
Not really. We
right.
we barely broke the surface on the two areas we're looking into right now.
Yeah,
I'm sure there's a wealth of information you're still looking through.
Yeah,
haven't even hit the tip of the iceberg.
Well, one of the things about the pendulum dowsing we think is a perfect tool, but it's a slow process because you're asking yes or no questions. Right. So to get a lot of information, you have to invest a lot of time.
Yeah, but that's also a good discipline because you have to be very specific in what you ask.
Yeah.
So it's a very disciplined process.
Oh, I can imagine, because it's not like, how tall are they? It's are they tall?
Yeah.
But you can't even do that. You've got to. Are they taller than me? Are they shorter?
It's so refined.
Everybody has a different definition of tall.
That's true. Jeez Louise.
Yeah. So.
Now remind me, how long have you two been working together?
Apparently thousands of years.
Oh, yeah. Okay. In this lifetime.
In this
I should
lifetime.
rephrase.
Yes.
In this lifetime.
You need to take a lesson and be more specific.
It's George's fault. So
I would say we've been
75.
making mischief for about half a century.
1975.
Okay. That's fair.
Just getting started.
Heck yeah.
Do you find that you complement each other in the way that one of you will think of questions that the other one perhaps doesn't?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Sure.
I like this so much.
Yeah.
Are you trying
Absolutely.
to figure out our future, Jeni? Is that what you're
Yeah,
doing?
I'm trying to discover if we will at some point be told that we were best friends in another lifetime. I feel like the answer is yes.
Well,
I
duh.
would bet on it.
Yeah.
Duh.
I would bet money on it.
Yeah. Yeah. Listen, I'm just always looking for ways to confirm that we are soul friends. Okay.
Okay, how about this, Jeni? Yes, we are.
Yeah.
Confirmed.
Done. All right. No more
Welcome.
questions.
Yep.
You know, what would you both have us and our audience take away from the investigations that you've done thus far and what you're continuing to do as far as figuring things out?
Yeah, I'll go first. I think my purpose in life, at least at this time, is to get people to think out of the box. I think that's I think I don't want to say God-given purpose, but I think what I am supposed to be doing right now is to get people to not accept what you hear, but do your own homework, do your own research, make up your own mind, and think out of the box. That would be my advice.
Mm-hmm. And there's a lot more to life than you think there is.
It's what?
It's big.
I think about a lot of stuff.
It really does.
Do you guys have anything else you want to promote? We've got in the show notes, everyone, if you want to find their books, not just the Star People and our ancestors' books, or their if you want to find that book, all the other ones in the show notes. What else do you guys want to promote, if there is anything else?
Yeah, all our books are available wherever you order your books. If they want to follow me on, I do blogs on writing. It's www.danbaldwin.com and www.fournightspress.com. FOURKNIGHTS, Four Nights Press.
Nice. You got anything, George?
Probably my website's the best contact area. It's www.georgesewell, SEWELL. Be sure you get that middle E, otherwise you'll get some fellow in New York. Nice guy, I'm sure. He's not me. At georgesewell.com.
You guys, such a pleasure. So thrilled to have you guys back.
Yes.
Delightful.
guys-
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh,
We
what fun. What
had
fun.
such a
Even if
great
I can't
time
see
last week.
myself.
Mhm.
Exactly. We had such a great time last time that we were very excited to get you back. So
Yeah.
excited about the book, excited about the listen.
Pretty
just
much
have to-
everything. Yes.
We'll see what we can come up with for next year.
Yeah. Seriously, though.
Yeah, get to
we're
work,
gonna
guys.
Really?
Get on it,
Really?
man.
Come on.
The two of you. We expect more hijinks or more stories or something.
Or-
We're good at
Or
hijinks.
both.
Or both.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm looking
Combination.
forward to your reality TV comedy show. I'm really looking forward to that.
Okay.
So thanks again for joining us.
Thank you, guys.
Everybody else, you can find us on the social medias and on our website, monsterslunchpodcast.com. Send us an email or, text or whatever people do and buy our merch. So until next time, thanks for visiting the Monsters Lounge.